Even before the pandemic, healthcare workers faced high rates of depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder. But over the past year, those problems have grown, and experts fear the worst is yet to come. In this week's You Are Not Alone, our Tracy Sears speaks to the Charlottesville family of a doctor who was the tragic victim of mental health struggles.
Lorna was amazing. She always wanted to be an emergency room doctor in Manhattan her entire life.
Lorna Breen dedicated her career to medicine. A graduate of Cornell and VCU Medical School, she loved service to others. As a daughter, sister, and favorite aunt, she was the light of her family.
She was just really at the pinnacle of her life and the pinnacle of her career this time last year.
But by March of 2020, Breen came home from a family vacation to be thrust into the front lines of the COVID-19 pandemic. Working as the ER director at New York Presbyterian Hospital, she contracted the virus, but had little time for recovery.
What she saw, she described to us as Armageddon. Death and dying on a volume and scale that had never been seen before by really any of those seasoned physicians or nurses on the front lines. They ran out of places to put bodies.
Overwhelmed and with little resources to treat patients, Breen's mental health quickly deteriorated. By April, her family brought her home to Charlottesville for help. Despite treatment, Breen died by suicide on April 26th.
In a 3-week period of time, this happened to my sister-in-law. She had no suspected or known history of mental health challenges or diagnoses. She had no history of depression. She had no history of anxiety.
Within days of Breen's suicide, the public outcry was overwhelming. Hundreds of healthcare workers sharing similar stories, saying burnout, already a widespread problem before the pandemic, was now intense.
We're going to be dealing with the manifestations of PTSD and other depression and other mental health diagnoses for a very long time to come, and some of it hasn't even appeared yet.
When Lorna became so overworked and despondent,
in July, Senator Tim Kaine delivered an emotional plea to Congress, proposing the Dr. Lorna Breen Healthcare Provider Protection Act to change policies and give healthcare workers access to help.
We're trying to, deal with family members and support our patients and support each other. And we're, also very lonely and experiencing that loneliness and being isolated from our own families and our own communities.
In virtual roundtable discussions with Virginia's healthcare workers, doctors and nurses shared stories of exhaustion, but many say they fear the stigma associated with mental health and the potential of job loss.
Because what we learned in a very short period of time is that before the pandemic, 400 doctors a year were dying by suicide in this country, pre-pandemic. And it was such a bigger issue than just one person. We could not be quiet.
Breen's family has established the Dr. Lorna Breen Heroes Foundation. While sharing her story is difficult, they say they'll continue to honor her life and her legacy.
And working to envision this world where asking for help and seeking mental health services is universally viewed as a sign of strength.
Working for You Are Not Alone, I'm Tracy Sears.
Just passed by Congress, the American Rescue Plan includes $140 million in funding for the Lorna Breen Act, providing mental health to support healthcare workers.